Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to deconstruct one of the most famous, yet deeply misunderstood pillars of Japanese business culture. For decades, the world has praised Japan for Omotenashi, an unparalleled level of hospitality that feels almost magical to outsiders. But behind the flawless service and the pristine smiles lies a growing crisis. Today, we look past the glowing reputation to explore the myth of the customer as God and understand why this legendary hospitality is rapidly reaching a dangerous breaking point. To understand the present crisis, we must first look at the illusion that has been built around Japanese service. To the global traveler, Japan is a paradise where every need is anticipated. But what does it actually take to maintain this illusion day in and day out? As we dive deeper, we begin to see that what looks like seamless cultural harmony is often sustained by an invisible, exhausting emotional sacrifice from the workers on the front line. Let's look at the baseline. The ideal of Omotenashi is rooted in selflessness, expecting nothing in return, protecting the guest from any friction, and masking all personal hardship behind a perfect, unshakable smile. It is a beautiful philosophy. However, the modern reality has warped this ideal into what sociologists call scripted harmony. It has created an environment of intense psychological pressure, where the boundaries between professional duty and personal dignity are dangerously blurred every single day. How did we get here? The story begins in 1961 with a single phrase that would alter Japanese society forever. Okyakusama wa kamisama desu. The customer is God. It was coined by the legendary enka singer, Haruo Minami. But here is the critical twist. He was never talking about business. For Minami, performing on stage was a sacred act. He viewed his audience not as demanding consumers, but as sacred witnesses to his artistic purity. Unfortunately, this poetic, artistic philosophy suffered what we can call a corporate hijack. During Japan's post-war economic boom, corporations took Minami's words completely out of context. They severed the phrase from its artistic roots and forcibly attached it to commerce. It was weaponized as a shield to justify absolute submission from frontline workers, transforming a beautiful relationship of mutual respect into a rigid, toxic hierarchy of master and servant. When you tell an entire nation of consumers that they are gods, you create a profound psychological imbalance. In this next section, we examine what happens when this cultural myth turns toxic. When the absolute right to satisfaction meets the pressures of modern society, it births a phenomenon that Japan is only now beginning to confront: the rise of customer harassment. This brings us to a harsh, data-driven reality. In Japan, this toxic behavior has a specific name: Kasuhara, short for customer harassment. According to a massive national survey, the reality on the ground is staggering. While numbers fluctuate, recent data shows that nearly half of all service workers have experienced severe, abusive behavior from customers. We are not talking about simple complaints here. We are talking about a systemic crisis. What does Kasuhara actually look like in practice? The data reveals a grim breakdown. The overwhelming majority manifests as relentless verbal abuse, screaming, insults, and personal degradation. This is closely followed by intense intimidation and threats. Furthermore, workers are subjected to long, exhausting detentions, where staff are essentially held hostage for hours, forced to bow and apologize repeatedly for minor or completely non-existent mistakes. The human cost of this dynamic is devastating. Statistically, 1 in every 3 service workers reports experiencing profound mental distress, severe anxiety, or chronic sleep loss. Human beings are being ground down by the system. As a direct consequence, the turnover rate in Japan's service sector has skyrocketed, sitting at 40% higher than the national average. This brings us to the sociological concept of emotional labor. In the service industry, a worker is not just selling a product, they are selling an illusion. They are forced to suppress their genuine human feelings, anger, sadness, exhaustion, and manufacture a state of perpetual joy. It is like an iceberg. The customer only sees the polite bowing above the surface, but underneath lies a massive weight of suppressed emotion and the slow erosion of the worker's own identity. As sociologists have noted, service interactions are inherently theatrical performances. Society functions beautifully when both the actor and the audience follow the script. But what happens when the guide decides to go off script? When the customer abandons their role as a respectful guest and turns into a bully? The theatrical harmony collapses instantly. But the tides are finally beginning to turn. The era of the omnipotent, untouchable consumer is coming to a necessary end. Decades after the myth was hijacked, Japanese society is experiencing a massive pushback. Major brands are establishing strict, zero-tolerance guidelines against abuse. More importantly, the government is taking action, introducing landmark legislation to legally protect workers. The message is clear. The customer is a partner, not a god.
Moving forward, together, a new era of service built on mutual respect.
True hospitality is not a master-servant ritual. It is a beautiful partnership of co-creation. Just as a great physician requires a great patient to perform their best work, the highest levels of omotenashi can only be unlocked when the customer actively plays the role of a respectful partner. When both sides bring empathy to the table, service becomes a genuine human connection. As we close, the stage is undeniably changing. Japan is redefining its boundaries, balancing its heritage of care with the fundamental right to human dignity. But this is not just a Japanese issue. In your own daily lives, how do you view the people who serve you? The next time you step up to a counter, remember, true culture is measured not by how flawlessly we are served, but by the level of respect we give to those who serve us. Thank you very much for your time.